Today, our presenter is Deena. Deena is going to be talking about automating your processes and defining how you work. Deena specializes in analyzing business workflow and providing consulting services to optimize that workflow, whether it's through process development, implementing the right technology, or managing data. With an optimized and automated workflow, Deena provides business leaders with the tools they need to efficiently and effectively run their business. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Deena.
Thank you, Andrew, for that. All right, so today what I want you all to learn is what automating means for your business and to understand how you can get there, how you can define the way you work to make you work more efficiently. So yesterday, as I was brainstorming about how I was going to present it, because I have never made a PowerPoint presentation in my life before, because I always do the teaching model. I was talking to my daughter, and she was going through, and we were talking about this is a way to organize everyone's life. And I want you to walk away from this being more organized and more efficient and feeling more confident in what you're doing, less overwhelmed. We like calm people, and that is my mission, to help everyone be able to do what they do really well. So I want questions and answers as we're going through this. So if you have a question, again, put it in the chat. That will help you get the most out of this. Over here is our outline. This is what we're planning on covering today, so you know where we're going and how it all fits in. Part one is automating. What does it mean? Why is it good for you? And then how do you get there? And since automating, you have to define how you work in order to do that properly, the part two is defining how you work, which is a lot of the what and the how and the when that we're going to get into. Alrighty, so moving on. Automation, what does it mean? So I looked at the dictionary.com definition. I figured that would give us let's start with an objective explanation and let's see if that makes sense for us. And I've highlighted the words that I thought made the most sense for us from a practical application. There are two ways of automating. Number one, by reducing human intervention to a minimum, which means that you have the right systems in place that you don't need to do as much actual labor in order to achieve the same result. So for example, if I did not have a food processor, for example, and I wanted to shred carrots, I would have to maybe take an old-fashioned grater and I'd have to grate them, and then that would take a long while and be super annoying. And I would have the grated carrots, but it would just take a while to get there. Now I have I have a software and I have a system. Now I have my machine, that grater, I just stick the carrot in and poof, it's done. So the second one is one that functions automatically without continuous input from an operator. Now let's say I'd have a machine that would be feeding the carrots into the machine for me. Now, instead of having someone sitting there grating 100 carrots, I have a machine that's just putting it in. I just press a button and everything gets grated for me. So there are those two aspects of it. You want to have the right systems, you want to have the right flow, you want to be doing it the right way to begin with, as opposed to doing something the wrong way, multiple ways, and then it just takes an hour longer than you absolutely need to, but you also want to have the right software. So those are the two ways that you are going to automate. And as you look at how you're doing it, it's not only software answers. Usually people associate automation with software only. It's also the processes and the way that you are doing things. All right, now why is automation good for you? Automation is good for you in a lot of ways. Number one, you save on cost. You are paying your employees. You are using your own time in order to do things. If I now spend less time, if my employees are spending less time, if everyone working with me for me is spending less time, guess what? I spend less money. So if you think about it for yourself, if you're a solo, then it moves on to the increased capacity, which is blue, which we'll get there. But if you have other people that you're working with and they're doing things for you, then you are paying less because they're spending less time. You also have fewer mistakes, because anytime you have anything manual going on, then there are going to be mistakes. There's just no question about it. You can try as much as you can. People are human. There is that cost of error. I always find it funny when people, they're scared about converting to something that's automated because they're scared. What happens if I make mistakes and there are problems, and how do I know the machine's making the mistakes for me? Well, let's just turn that same question back on yourself. If I have my employees are doing things, are they going to make mistakes? How am I going to catch that? And most often the machine will make a lot fewer mistakes. And when it makes the mistakes, they're much more predictable and easy to solve and find. Anyway, so you're going to save costs by automating your workforce. Now, because you're doing a better job, things are automated. You have the systems, you're not making mistakes. People are, things are moving through. You have better communication among your team because things are, again, more automated. You have a better system of how things are done. You have better client retention, right? People are really happy with what you do. You are providing a great service now because now that you are structured, you're organized, there's that level of calm that you've introduced, and you're providing great quality. Have you ever lost any clients? Hopefully not. But if you have, this may prevent that because now you have good systems. Your clients are happier. Happier clients means that they're going to introduce you to other people who can be potential clients. I always tell everyone that a really good sign of a healthy business is the majority of your new business comes from referrals. So in order to get there, you need to have your business in tip-top shape so that you are confident and all your clients are confident that you can do a really good job. That's one of the things also in our Thrive group that we look for when we add members on, that we have to be confident that they are operating really well, because then I'm really happy to refer a client in. When you have new referrals, you don't have to be going out working on sales. So there's less cost associated with that also. Automation also builds good culture among your people. If people are empowered to do well, they naturally will want to do better. They will be making less mistakes. They're going to be more positive. They are going to succeed better. The environment is not stressful. Employees are happier. Your clients are happier. Everyone's happier. Everything's moving much more smoothly for you. Even for yourself, if it's just you, like if you have that good culture, I'm overwhelmed by my work and I can't do this and it's so overwhelming. I don't know what to do and everything's all over the place and you just can't function well. But on the other hand, if you have great systems for yourself and you know exactly what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it and what software you're using to help you to do it, it just clears a lot out of your mind and you're happy you're doing your job. And the last is that we're going to increase your capacity. So if you now, before I had one person managing my carrot shredder, and they were shredding 100 carrots and maybe it took them 3 hours to do that. Now with my machine, I can now do 100 carrots an hour with no people involved. So now I can do 3,000 carrots and I don't need to buy any new machines. I don't have to have any more people. So the more you automate, the more scalability you have. I remember when I started out years and years ago, one of my first jobs that I did, we took an overworked staff and we reduced it so that they had about 33% free time. So now the owner was then able to go and then fill more work for that 33% time, which means that your bottom line goes up. You can onboard new clients, you can scale up, you can move to the next level, or you could have more free time, whichever one you like. All right, any questions so far?
Yeah, we do. Larry Wilner has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Larry, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I think I have to unmute him.
Okay.
We can unmute him. All right, Larry, you can talk.
Now he's muted.
Now he's muted.
There you go.
Now he's unmuted. You on, Larry?
Are you there?
All right.
We did get another question that came in from Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to know, she said many of her clients fear not being able to have their finger on the pulse of things. Can you, looking at, things one last time, et cetera, can you address how to take that into consideration in the automation process?
Absolutely. That is a very common fear that people have because they want to know what's going on. When you automate, it's important to put in some measure of checks and balances that you can see if things are being done well. Did they hit a certain point? Do you see that level of communication, the level of the report that has to be checked? Like, for example, in that client that first one, which we automated so much more, I had 2 people checking to make sure that the work was being done well. A lot of times it's a metric that they're, looking at how many people are in this stage or how many people are, how many communications did we have, who opened it. So it's more on the reporting end of things, I guess, number one. And number 2 is that we add in that measure of checks and balances, that things are checked by someone else other than the machine, whether it's all the time, part of the time, some of the time, depending on the situation. It is going to be a different answer, but that's how I usually approach it. All right, moving on, or any other questions?
Actually, we had one other one come in, and it spoke to all of this planning. It sounds awesome, but I'm so busy right now. How do I carve out the time to set all this up originally?
That is called a return on investment. If I spend an hour now, and it's really hard to get that hour going through the process, which we're going to outline soon, I am going to then have all these benefits. So does it sometimes hurt to get to the benefits? Yes, but you should always be spending some of your time on business development. I think the number floated around is a third of your time should be on business development. I'm not a business development person, but you need to have allocated time that is critical in your schedule to devote to making yourself better. And this should go in there as a top priority.
There was one more question before you jump into it, just to kind of keep this as interactive as possible. And guys, keep asking your questions. This is great. We want to make sure we're getting some good back and forth. Deena certainly has some great stuff to go over, but we had a question from Jody Frank who wanted to know, what specifically do you automate within the CRM?
All right. I'm going to answer you that. I'm going to answer that soon as I go through the CRM as a part of that. All right. So now question is, how do I automate, right? So the first step is to understand the way that you work, which we're going to get into. Once you understand the way you work, then you can begin to systematize it. If I go into my playroom right now, for example, I'm just not, because it's just a mess. There's Legos and perler beads and cards and games all over the place. And yeah, I have to make my kids clean it up, right? How am I going to approach that in a way that I can make order in this? I'm going to think about, okay, I'm going to understand, all right, these are all the things that are a mess on the floor. Now I'm going to systematize it. Okay, this is what I need to do. These are the objects. And then I will maybe bring in my new perler bead sweeper cleaner ever thing to help clean me up. I'm going to use technology to help me get there. So it's creating the right systems. I'm going to reward my kids. I'm going to specify which order I'm going to do it in. I'm going to be structured about it, and I'm not going to push it off. I'm going to fit it into my schedule. And then using technology, and then keep on doing it. This is circular. You need to constantly be working on yourself and developing in order to have the right level of automation. All right, so to understand what you're doing, this is the first step that everyone has to do. This is about 80% of understanding what your workflow is in this step. Is writing it down. We have write in big capital. Yes, old-fashioned pen and paper. There's nothing like it. Okay, some people like typing it, but I find that writing it is just a much better mind flow connection. Make a list. These are your action items that you're going to take home with you. I want you to make a list of things that you are doing. As you're doing it, you have that pad of paper next to your computer. You have that pen. I am doing this. Let me jot it down. So I am, I don't know, supporting a client that had a problem with the software I developed. I am helping on a potential client phone call. I am fill out that list as you're doing it. Now don't think about it, just write it down, jot it down, move on. And let's see after a few days, what do you have on your list that you're actually doing? A lot of the things that we do, you don't even put into the right, you don't even realize that you are doing them. And that's something that actually takes time. And if you aren't associating your actual work that you're doing with your schedule, then that's going to be an exercise in frustration and you won't have the right systems. You want to track your time also. I often recommend to people that use something like Toggle or just something, Clockify, to just record your time for a few days to see where is your time actually going. You can't build yourself a good schedule until you know where your time is going. Then you'll see, you might even be really surprised. I did not know I was spending that much time writing proposals. I did not know I was spending that much time on potential client phone calls. I did not know I was spending that much time on client onboarding. I did not know I was spending all of this time on billing, things like that. So you want to document. And going back to lists, lists we're going to come back to again. What are you frustrated with? As you're doing something, I really hate making my invoices. Write that down, that it's just an annoying thing to do. Like, I really believe that nobody should be doing something that they don't like doing. So if you're frustrated, you don't like it, somebody else can probably do a much better job of it than you, or maybe a software can do it, but that would be the first thing to go. We want to work happily. And what apps do you have and how do you use them? So I use my G Suite for my email. I use Google Drive for when I'm sharing with other people. I use Dropbox primarily because then I can transfer things back and forth. Let's see, I use Microsoft all the time. I use Facebook, I use LinkedIn, I use Slack, I use GQs, these are all the different things, but where do they come into the picture? So at least now what you should have before you is a list, words on paper of all the things that are going on in your work life. And making lists again, if you put down the things that you need to do that you aren't necessarily getting to, not only does that clarify the things that have to go into your schedule, but it also helps you then build your schedule, and it also frees up your mind space. Mind space is so, so, so valuable. So we want to understand what you're doing. Okay, any questions on that, or we move on to the next? Moving on. All right, now your brain is going to be, this also gets into a lot of personal efficiency, right? So remember we talked about good systems, that it's not just software. A lot of it is mastering how you work best. So the things that I see all the time that people should not be doing ever, and I'll tell you why, are multitasking. If you multitask, then it doesn't let your brain function as well. You do so much better when you do one thing at a time. It is a myth that multitasking is a good idea. I know if I try to multitask, then I don't do nothing well and my stress levels go up and it takes me double the amount of time. So I just usually, my phone, it just goes away and I hide it. I don't allow those interruptions. Yeah, I can be bombarded, and usually by the time I come back, my phone is totally bombed, but I need to work. And if I let people interrupt me, then I'm not going to get anything done. So what's more important? What they think is important or what I think is important? I'm not going to allow those interruptions. My email can be turned off. I can stop all my emails from coming in until I'm ready to do new ones, because of course, as fast as you send emails, the emails come in. If something comes up, oh my gosh, I need this right away, please do it. That's dangerous because that is interrupting the way you work and you're not being able to function properly. The good things to do are, now we have this list, remember? So we created this list and now we're going to see how can I structure myself better? Well, the best way to do things is if you group activities by type. I'm going to answer all my emails. I'm going to do all my support calls. I'm going to do all my document preparation. I'm going to do all my client calls. Together, because then your brain is in that mode and it can work in that mode and you don't have to keep switching out of it. Schedule things based on the way you work best. If you're not at your peak at 9 in the morning, but you're doing really great mid-afternoon, that's when you should schedule things. If you are doing really well in the morning and by that mid-afternoon, you're kind of slumping and you're tired because there's that natural break after lunch, or you got to make sure you eat lunch and you put the things that need more mental energy in the morning and the things that are more quiet and passive, maybe it's just checking your emails in the afternoon. You want to organize the activities. So know what you're doing and when you're doing it, and prioritize. What you decide is important is much more important than what somebody else decides is important somewhere in the middle of the day. I usually go like in the beginning of the day, write yourself a schedule, or maybe even the day before. What are your priorities? Knock those out. This also gets into eating the frog. First thing in the morning, you don't like it, you have to do it. Don't procrastinate, just put it into your schedule. This is when I'm going to do it, and get it over with and done with, and stick to it. And then reward yourself. Take breaks. Often it's like a 5-minute break situation. That works best for people. For me, I know I have certain milestones that I get to, and then I take a break, a walk outside, going inside, talking to the family, playing a game, I don't know, whatever motivates you. You want to get through it, but schedule those in. And you want to also use technology to help you. So that gets into the CRM question. How do I know which technology I should use? Well, now we've figured out what you're doing, right? All the different things that are going into your day, right? That was back over here, all the things that we're writing down. So now, which of those things would be best organized in some kind of centralized location? If I have a team or it's myself, I need to have it collected somewhere. Will it save me time? Will it help me work better? If any of those questions are yes, or it could be, then it's worth pursuing. Let's say 90% of your job is focusing on sales and getting things signed. Then get some kind of CRM that has a pipeline. I mean, there are so many out there that can help you just remind you where your different potential clients are along the pipeline, and even automate the emails that are being sent out. Having some kind of CRM, even if it's an Excel spreadsheet, just something that keeps your contacts together and the things that people that you have to follow up with is really useful. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. I don't advise running your business off of Excel, but Excel can be really useful as an app. People don't even think about it, but as long as it's organized, it's scheduled. I personally love using GQueues for my project management because it integrates with my Gmail, and which is based on G Suite. And I just like click add to my list, and then it goes onto my list and it connects to my email. And that's a really great way of being organized. So remember these frustrations that we have? How can I solve those? Those things will happen in some kind of software usually. Okay. So now it's time blocking. So over here in front of you, you see a 24-hour life cycle, your workday, right? Hoping you get 8 hours of sleep. I know most of us don't get that, but this is a general wish list and it's not meant to be entirely accurate. Let's say you have 4 hours personal time, family, kids, whatever. Again, ideally, maybe you'll be more, but that's what it is. I don't even know if my numbers add up here. I don't think they do, but it's a general idea. You have an 8-hour workday, we're gonna say, right? Let's say you're gonna schedule your work for 6 hours and we have other work for 2. And I'm gonna explain to you why I broke it up that way. You want to time block. Time block is, I think, the most best thing that you can do for yourself. If there's any one thing you walk away from this with, it's that you need to time block. When you time block, that means that I am setting aside a certain amount of time predefined to work on these tasks. Maybe it's just attack my task list. Maybe it's that I'm going to be working on certain projects. But during that time, you're doing one thing at a time and you are not being distracted by anything, including your wonderful children coming in to visit you. They know when my door's closed, they can't come in. Make that rule. When you have that there, your 6 hours is going to be so much more productive than 10 hours of non-time block time. Now, things are going to come up, right? We know that. They always do. So for that, you want to schedule what I call squishy time, which is actually someone else coined that term. But things are going to come up. So maybe I have 2 hours and then half an hour break time, and then 2 hours and half an hour break time. And in that break time, maybe I'll put an hour for like random support requests. I know random things come in every day, and I need to be prepared to be able to handle them. If I don't build it into my schedule, then I schedule my 8 hours full of work things that I need to do, and then other things come in, and then I'm going to be overwhelmed. So we don't want to do that. So it's a lot of managing your time and how you're doing it. That can get into questions of working with a team. A lot of people know that that if they implement this into their workplace, then they need to communicate when their times are and when they're going to talk about other things, and that I will respond to you in a few hours or things like that. There's a really good podcast I listened to called The One Thing, and you can ask yourself the question, what is the one most important thing that I need to do next? And just do that. And if your one thing is doing your time blocking, then ignore all the other messages coming in and all the other people trying to get your attention, and turn your email off and turn your Facebook off and turn your LinkedIn off. All right. Now,
Deena, before we jump into this slide, we got a couple questions. So let's because they're relevant. So one person asked, I need to always be available for my employees. They always have questions for me. How do I time block and still be available for them?
So when you time block for them, what you should do is tell your employees that I am going to not be available between 9 and 11 for questions. At 11 o'clock, ask me whatever you want. Or emails are going to come in, but just this is my process. There is no such thing that I need to be available at all times unless you are a doctor in an emergency situation where people are having babies. You can always wait 2 hours and just let them know. If that's part of your process, then that's okay.
We had Howard had a couple questions. So first was about use of Slack as a tool to help you automate.
So Slack can be useful as a tool to automate communications. It's a system, it's a process that helps you. I've used it, and instead of emails bouncing back and forth, I have a channel and I can see all the different communications that happened with those particular people on the particular topic. So at least now the information is more centralized and communications are more centralized. It's much more transparent, and that's how I usually implement it.
And also real quick with Slack, I know you mentioned using the Google Suite. Slack implements really well with a lot of those tools to keep you, again, talking about the focus, it keeps you focused. You don't have to bounce between as many of the tools if you use that. The other question was, again, about technology, just kind of looking at your favorite CRM for marketing automation, and how do you see it providing unique advantages for yours or your clients' marketing activities?
Well, there are so many different CRMs that I've looked at. Everyone is unique for different people's situations. So one fun one, well, I like Zoho. It's kind of bulky to use, but it has so many things that I can personalize about it. They have a marketing automation thing, and they have a lot of different parts of the business that can integrate with it. HubSpot's another great one. It's free, it's easy, and there's a lot you can do with it also. There are so many. I don't have any one favorite that I use for CRMs. And I can tell you a secret, I personally don't have an automated CRM for myself because I don't need one, but I have all my contacts together in one place on Google, G Suite. Again, that's my way of communicating. Yeah. Okay, so we're getting summary. That is.
You should hit your phone, Deena.
Email. Yeah.
Someone really wants to ask a question. If you have questions, don't call Deena directly. Ask them right here on the
I have my phone line forwards to my Google, which means that wherever I have my Google Chrome open, I'm getting my phone calls, which is why you just heard that. So, and a great example of that. Now people can call me whenever, wherever I am. All right, but we want to understand how you work best. I just want you to summarize that. If we create our focus with your time, so we have the focus and we have the time, which is what we discussed, then that is how you're going to work efficiently, and that's how we get to the systems part of it. And hopefully now you have all the answers to these questions. And if you don't have the answers to them and you're not clear, please ask so I can clarify it for you.
Absolutely, and we're almost at time, so we're going to hop into a couple of the questions that we got before, unless somebody has additional ones. One of the questions was, let me find a good one that we had again asked. So again, looking at your team, how do you get them to operate more efficiently? Obviously, we're talking about all these systems, but getting them to actually use it and implement it and make sure they're maximizing it. What's kind of that advice you would give for adaptation?
And that kind of goes back to Becca's question about how do I know it's being done. Everyone needs to be on the same page. We need to have an agreed upon way of this is how our company does everything. This is how we work. When I have a potential client calling, what do I do with the information? It goes into the CRM. From there, who's responsible for nurturing the lead? From there, who is writing the proposal? How is it being done? Which template are we using? Do we have different templates? How do we do our pricing? All those steps need to be figured out and documented, and everybody needs to be clear on it. How do we then onboard the client, the services that we're doing? What is the process, the procedure? Everyone needs to be very clear, and everyone needs to be on the same page and not left to their own devices. Now, Grant and I have worked with a lot of people on helping them solve that because some people just don't know how they should be doing that, and that's okay. My expertise is in organizing, so I can help people organize their businesses. Other people's are in other things, so that's what we're here to help you with. Or you can do it yourself. But the main thing is that we need to have one uniform way of doing things and across the board. And then you need to be able to hold everyone accountable. That in your weekly meetings, in your monthly team meetings, you can say, I see you're doing this. I see you're not doing this. Reward them with bonuses or punish them by taking away privileges. I don't know, whatever you choose to do, but you must hold people accountable.
Someone asked if you could go back to the previous slide just for a second, just so they could take it in.
This one?
Yeah. So then we can. And then we had another question that came in. Any suggestions for the best resource for sending out email blasts and making sure that they can get through?
Okay, so that depends also on your content with there. The different email engines are categorizing things as spam based on how you put things in there. I know usually when I send out a general blog, which I don't know if you're not on my list, you can get on my list, then I usually have a pretty good success rate of it getting through. One time I sent something out that had a lot more information and a lot of links to other things, and then it was being categorized as a spam news thing. I don't think it makes a difference which provider you use. I personally use MailChimp. I'm looking into switching into other options because I don't love how it works. But I would say that would probably be a really good question for a marketing person who knows that, which is not me, but I can refer you to a number of great ones. I think Sage is on the line. He's a good one.
And I would also, and yeah, Sage is a great resource for that too. But I would also say, narrowing down how many people you're blasting to. So if you have a good system that you've integrated, and you can divvy up your client base or your prospects into different pockets and not send out as big of a blast, that's also going to help. Just kind of customizing that message is going to resonate better anyway. So, kind of work in tandem with all the systems that Deena talked about. If you can really kind of say, here's the benefits we provide to each of these different sectors and send out customized messages that way, it can still be a blast, but it may be smaller, more targeted, and could get you a better response anyway.
Yeah, and the benefits of using a software to do a blast versus not doing a blast are very clear because you can't do one without using some kind of technology.
I want to remind everybody that next week, join us. Mike Camerata is going to be he's from Tide Creek Financial, and he's going to be talking about financial planning in uncertain times. And I encourage you, if you have any questions or follow up, or you would like to talk to any of the panelists here, reach out to us. You can reach out to us through the Thrive website or through our individual websites. And we look forward to hearing from you and talk to you next week.